There's a huge difference between income inequality and poverty, two terms that are often used interchangeably. A lot of the issues that we face are that of income inequality, which basically boils down to a fight against differences in classes more than it does a fight against deprivation. Now, none of this is meant to minimize the real risk and suffering that people here in the West go through. The reason I think precision with these terms and their differences is so crucial is because just as we don't want our difficulty to be minimized and diluted with this idea that, well, it could always be worse, we should also not minimize the real poverty that other people are facing, which is orders of magnitudes different, worse than what we have here in the West. Not only does this encourage us to be more grateful, it also reminds us that people who are rich are not this alien species who just want to exploit the world. They are people just like us. And in fact, in many ways, we are the rich people compared to many other people around the world. It is largely relative. Let's look at some numbers here. If you make about 19,000 a year in the US, cost per living adjusted, you are among the top 10% of the richest people in the world. Let that sink in for a second. The top 10% of the richest people in the world, if you're making only about 20 grand a year, that might not sound like much at all. And once again, that is adjusted already for cost of living. So it doesn't matter that you're paying more for housing, doesn't matter that you're paying more for food or healthcare. The objective value of what you are making far supersedes what millions of people around the world, millions and millions of people around the world are enjoying. And believe it or not, this number is actually not that far off from the minimum wage, which is about 15,000 per year if you're working full time. As you might imagine, it doesn't take that much more for you to break your way into the top 5% and even the top 3% of earners in the world. To give you a better sense of how this compares to other parts of the world, the US versus Burkina Faso, 8 times more than they are making if you're making just the minimum wage. Versus Mexico, we're making 2.6 times. Versus Brazil, we're making almost 2 times. It might also surprise you to learn that the difference between the top 5% of earners in the world, cost per living adjusted, compared to the top 10% of earners is actually not far off at all. There's a range that I've found while looking into this from 20,000 to 30,000. If we take the lower end of that range, that is only a few $100s more than what it would take to make you a top 10%. So 19,600 makes you a top 10% earner. 20,000 on the lower range makes you a top 5% earner. That range goes all the way to 30,000. So we can call it 25,000 to put you in the top 5% of earners in the world. That is still not much for to many of our perspectives. I hope it's becoming a little clearer why this distinction between poverty and income inequality is so crucial, because these two terms really do not share much in common with each other. As I mentioned at the top of this, billionaires, people of the likes of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, are significantly richer than most of us. I was shocked to find that you would have to be making several millions of dollars per day to catch up to them in something like 87 years or something crazy like that. So that just gives you an idea of just how insane this income inequality is. But once again, I think this is a problem that we can focus on fixing, we can appreciate without detracting from the real issues, the abject poverty that people are going through in other parts of the world. There's a couple of lessons I think we can glean from this perspective. The first is that we should be grateful for what we have because we have a lot to be grateful for. And the second is that there is no cabal of rich people out there who are conspiring to make our lives a living hell any more than we, the top 10% earners and above, are in cahoots with each other, trying to make people's lives in other countries much worse than they are. It's important to keep this in mind when we are vilifying rich people, either out of envy or some idea that they are taken away from us, because this relationship we share with them is no less salient than the relationship that we share with people from other countries. The fact that we're countries apart doesn't take away from the fact that we live in an incredibly interconnected marketplace where things going on in one country, especially one as influential and affluent as the US, inevitably affects those in other countries. So I would argue that whatever burden and responsibility that we think rich people in our countries have, we have those same burdens and responsibilities to the rest of the world. Income inequality in the US is far more about fairness and distribution. Poverty in poorer countries is about basic survival. These problems might have some relation in that they are parts of a continuum, but it's important to remember that most of us here in the West fall at the higher end of that continuum. So the problem of poverty and the problem of income inequality might have some relation, but they are not identical.